Morning, everyone. I want to give a little title to this devotion this morning, and it's very simply this: Don't stop calling on Jesus. Don't stop calling on Jesus. In the days when Jesus walked the earth, if you were a popular or a distinguished rabbi or teacher, one of the most common ways to learn from that kind of person would be to walk with them when they were traveling from one place to another. That was quite custom to do that. People would walk in silence and they would listen to the rabbi or the teacher. If you remember, most people were very uneducated, and often rabbis and teachers were very educated. So to learn from them was a real privilege and a real honor. And so, of course, Jesus himself was a rabbi, and he was a fantastic teacher. And you will find often in the Gospels little phrases like, the people were amazed at his words, or they would say he taught with such authority. There was one particular occasion when a woman needed healing, and she had to press through the crowds as Jesus was teaching them, because the crowds would often follow Jesus, or Jesus would stop and the crowds would come together, and they would be shoulder to shoulder. They'd be really close, and they would be silent as they walked and followed and listened to Jesus, or as they listened to him when Jesus would stop and teach them. So this was a common thing right throughout the times of Jesus. And on one particular occasion in the Gospel of Mark chapter 10, we read that Jesus was leaving Jericho to go to Jerusalem. Jericho was about 15 miles from Jerusalem, and Jesus was going to walk to Jerusalem, and that was going to be his final destination. It was the time where Jesus would eventually be crucified on a cross. So that was like the last leg of Jesus' journey from Jericho to Jerusalem, and he was going there to celebrate the Passover. So I want you to just imagine, this is what it looked like. Jesus in Mark chapter 10 was walking. He just left Jericho, and it says that a large crowd began to follow him. Now that crowd, apart from the sound of their feet, would have been absolutely silent. They would have been leaning their ears towards Jesus, and they would have been glued to him, and they would have been trying to get as much from Jesus as possible. They'd have been listening intently to the teaching of Jesus. So you can imagine, can't you, that on this particular day in Mark chapter 10, as they were walking along the road following Jesus, listening intently to the teaching of Jesus, how angry the crowd would have got when some person sitting on the roadside decided to interrupt everything and started to call on the name of Jesus. And of course, if we read Mark chapter 10, we'll discover that that person was called Bartimaeus, and Bartimaeus was blind. And so while everybody was listening to the teaching of Jesus, Bartimaeus was aware that Jesus was passing by, and he could possibly hear, the shuffle of people's feet as they walked by or as people were listening. And he began to shout out really loudly, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." And he began to call out to Jesus. And in that chapter, towards the end of Mark 10, you'll read these words that the crowd start to say, "Be quiet, stop it, we're trying to listen. We're trying to get as much as we can from Jesus. Shh, be quiet." But that didn't deter Bartimaeus, and all the more he began to cry out, "Jesus, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." And he kept calling out to Jesus because he wanted to get Jesus' attention. And that's exactly what he got. It says that Jesus eventually stopped, and he heard this man, this beggar, this blind beggar, calling out on the side of the road, "Jesus, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." And we read that he called this man to him, and the crowd all of a sudden kind of changed their tone, and they said, "Cheer up, get up, he's calling you." And he got to his feet and he came to Jesus. And Jesus said some very, very unusual words to him. It would have been pretty obvious that he was blind. It would have been pretty obvious the state of this man. But Jesus said these words to him. He said, "What do you want me to do for you?" And Bartimaeus said these lovely little words. He said, I want to see. And Jesus says, go on your way, your faith has made you whole. And it says that instantly Bartimaeus received his sight, and he then followed Jesus down the road. He walked along with the rest of the crowd listening to Jesus. What a lovely story. I think the lesson that we can learn from that this morning is that, there are lots of voices around us that will try and keep us quiet. There are lots of voices that will try and stop us calling on Jesus. Maybe they're voices within us. Maybe they're voices of fear. Maybe they're voices of doubt or unbelief. Maybe you have a prayer request, or you have a situation where you've called out to Jesus quite a few times before and that prayer hasn't been answered. And so the voice in you says, don't bother anymore. Is Jesus ever going to listen to you? Is Jesus ever going to meet your need? Is he ever going to answer your prayer? And sometimes the voices that are trying to stop us calling out to Jesus are the voices within, the voices in our mind, or the voices within our heart. And of course, as well, there could be voices, exterior voices, maybe friends or colleagues, maybe ridicule your faith. Your religion, you're religious. I don't know why you call on God. He's not real. He's not there. And maybe there are systems and voices outside of your life that would speak to you and almost say to you, be quiet. Don't call on the name of Jesus. But I think we can learn something from this story in Mark chapter 10, and we can learn something from Bartimaeus, and that is this. Let's keep calling out to Jesus. It was his persistent calling and his persistent calling out to Jesus that eventually led him to be brought to Jesus, and of course led to the miraculous moment when he received his sight. So my encouragement to us today, and to myself of course, is this. Don't stop calling out to Jesus. Wherever you are and whatever is going on in your life, Jesus is there for you, and you can continue to call out to him. So my prayer this morning is very simply this. Persist, keep doing it, and keep calling out to Jesus, because he is there. And there might be just that moment in your life where he meets with you and he answers your prayer and brings you what you need. Have a great day, and bless you, and we'll hopefully see you all on Sunday. Take care. Bye.